Hello, everybody. Welcome to more Solidity Fridays, where I still need to mute my tab in Twitch so I don't hear myself talking. Where a couple of Solidity developers sit around and very professionally stream on Twitch and read contracts together. I am William Schwab. I am joined by Rory Simmons and Ben Sparks from Lennon Labs. And last week we started looking through the OHM or OlympusDAO contracts, which we plan on keeping up with this week. For those who weren't there, Olympus is one of the forefront protocols of something that some people are starting to call DeFi 2.0, kind of like a new wave of DeFi innovation, or at least a buzz phrase that a lot of people who are in the space really, really hate. OlympusDAO is clearly a very successful protocol, being that lots of people have worked it to make lots of money. So that's always like, a really positive sign and things like that. And I'm going to try to stop being so salty and sarcastic now and let Ben talk about Olympus a bit.
All right. Thank you for that. Well, I was just noticing on this. We'll dive into the code right now, but I'm just noticing on the Olympus homepage, people have unstaked a tiny amount. It used to be 90%, I believe, in our last stream of total ohm staked. And wasn't this figure a bit higher? The current APY, I think it's like.
You're ahead of me. APY in general, I do believe, does get diluted though, because assume that more people are depositing over time, and the more people who are depositing, I do believe it brings the APY down. Like once you hit a certain inflection point. I remember with ETH2 staking was like that. I'm pretty sure it's like that for OHM also. That at a certain point, the level of investment causes a certain amount of dilution. It could be that's also epoch related though. That if a certain amount of people within a certain amount of time, in a certain epoch, deposit, that it dilutes the APY a bit. I remember in the beginning, their numbers were absolutely insane, well over 10,000. I mean, these numbers are still insane, but they were even more insane, substantially more insane in the beginning.
Yep. There's also, since our last time, people have been bringing up Wonderland, which is, I guess, the runner-up fork of Olympus.
Spell is, right? I mean, because Wonderland has a few things going on.
I don't believe Spell is a fork of Olympus, is it?
One of them is. Maybe it's Time. Maybe it is Time.
Yeah. So Time is the token of Wonderland, I think. Rory.
They've got three. They've got Mim, they've got Spell, and they've got Time right now, I think.
Yes, Time is the token.
Yeah. So I think is it Abracadabra? That's a separate protocol by the same guy who did Wonderland, I think. Has the governance token, I think, is Spell, and then it has a stable coin sort of component to it as well, which is MIM, Magic Internet Money. And then he did this one, Wonderland, which has the token Time.
But it's kind of like a trident at the moment. It's Abracadabra, Wonderland, and Popsicle that they.
Oh yes, I forgot about Popsicle as well. All right, we're getting a bit distracted, but yeah, as you can see, Wonderland's still at a very healthy 90,000% APY. So that's
very healthy. I think that's healthy, like steroids are healthy. But yeah.
Yeah.
If you go into the app, you can kind of see that Time is the OHM fork. It's talking about epochs and rebasing and things like that.
All right, but let's not get ourselves too distracted.
Absolutely.
Where do we want to go here? Where do we want to start? I believe last time we were looking at one of these bonds. Was it the bond depository?
I think there was that image, I think it was the Bond Depot. Yeah, I think that was it. Because that was kind of like that diagram. Yeah, that'd probably be a good idea.
There we go.
Refresher. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, user goes to the Bond Depot. The Bond Depot seems to be where things begin and end, at least outside the user.
Yes.
The user will be interacting with the Bond Depot both to put funds in and get stuff out. So and I'd say let's refresh ourselves a little bit on what we did in the contract, not get too stuck in that, and then try and move a bit forward.
All right.
See if we're able to get either into OHM or SOHM or the Treasury or something like that. Allocator.
Okay, so here we are. Oh, I remember they were so flattened. They've got all these safe math and ownable and everything. so we have to dig a bit to get to the actual meaty code of the protocol.
It's interesting. I wonder why people do that in like a GitHub repo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I get it when you're verifying just to flatten everything. But just like I mean, do people code like this?
I hope not.
I don't code like this. That's all I know.
Me neither. Just import it, little import line, and then you're good. You're good to go.
Yeah. So okay, 600 lines in, we start the contract. Fixed math, safe ERC20. For those who don't know what safe ERC20 is, maybe I should even throw a little blurb in for that. I don't think we did that last week. Safe ERC20 is a library from OpenZeppelin that helps prevent a lot of footgun type behavior when interacting with ERC20 contracts. Use it. If you don't know what it is, Google OpenZeppelin safe ERC20 and use it in your code. It is a great idea. It is an absolutely wonderful resource. So,
is it? Well, do you know if it's still relevant in Solidity 0.8 and beyond?
I'm like 99% certain. I'd have to read through it again because a lot of it is actually what you're getting back from transfers and transfers reverting and all of that. In ERC20, okay, first of all, in ERC20 as compared to, say, ERC 721 and 1155, ERC20 being the token standard, and like, you know, for tokens like DAI or Ohm or whatever the case is, and then 721 and 1155 being the two NFT standards. One of the big differences is safe transfers, as in 721 and 1155, because they leverage a different EIP 165, they're able to kind of have this safer transfer feature. I can't remember if Safe ERC20 implements something similar or not. Probably not to some degree because I won't dive too deep into the details there. Another issue with ERC20 though is that ERC20, the transfers in protocol return a Boolean. From what I remember, if somebody out there has this a bit clearer than I do, like this is my level of understanding. They return a Boolean, which means that even if your transfer fails, if whoever's implementing the token returns false, your code will likely think that the transfer succeeded.
Okay.
Which is why a lot of times you'll see ERC20 transfers that aren't using safe math wrap transfers in a require. Because that way, if the transfer fails and returns false, the require will fail and throw. So that's one thing, but the thing is not everybody necessarily strictly adheres to the ERC20 standard when they're making an ERC20 token. So then you have ones that don't return anything. So then those will fail even on a successful transfer. So then you're kind of stuck. So Safe ERC20 gets around a lot of that I do know. It manages to revert on a failed transfer, no matter whether the underlying ERC20 token returns something or not. I believe that that's kind of the main gain that you get with it, though I do seem to recall that there's others. One of the OZ devs, I think Santiago maybe, has a kind of infamous gist or something like that, where he goes through common misconceptions that Solidity developers believe. And he spends like a long time talking about this. But yeah, okay, that's enough for a Safe ERC20 shout out.
Sweet. So yeah, basically TLDR, use it. It's safer than the normal ERC20 library.
Yep.
Okay. So I think we did actually get a little bit into this contract last time.
Yeah, for sure.
Covered these events. We did cover some of these data structures as well, these terms and bonds. Do you remember that, Will?
Yep.
All right. So I remember we just looked at this pretty basic constructor. Maybe we should just refamiliarize ourselves with the data structures, and then we can dive into. Let's just look at the functions. So we've got set bond terms. We did that last time. Set adjustments. These are just like setting parameters, I suppose.
Basic setters.
Yeah. User functions. This is the interesting stuff, probably. We'll get to this now, but we're going to just go over those data structures a bit first. Deposit and oh wow, it's a beefy function. Deposit, redeem. So if we go back to this diagram, those functions are represented by these two lines. Depositing your funds into the bond depot, and redeeming them here. So
You're even kind enough to write that in the diagram, like call deposit, call redeem.
Yeah. So let's familiarize ourselves again, and then
Oh, and that's really it. After that, it's the internal functions, isn't it?
yeah, bond
Okay.
price and some views.
Oh, those are the views. Yeah.
Yeah, debt ratio, beautiful. All right, let's just go back over these guys. Okay, so the terms of creating a new bond: control variable, scaling variable for price. Right. I'm not super sure what this would be right now, but we will see. Vesting term. Okay, so this is probably the amount of blocks your bond is going to vest over. Minimum price. Max payout.
It's interesting that they're using blocks also, but that's kind of the old conversation. What's better to use, timestamp or blocks?
Yeah, I think personally I prefer timestamp these days because it's more natural for users. You can have
I started with blocks, but tend to use timestamp now.
Yeah. But you just know in the future you will, at some point in time, you can predict by this point in time we can have an event. Whereas with blocks, you're not exactly certain. And then there's the bond. So you pay out ohm. There's vesting. So this is blocks left to vest. This will probably be updated periodically.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you see that from the payout also? Remaining to be paid. It sounds like it's periodically paid off.
Yeah. So last block, well, basically I think what they're doing here is they are when users are calling functions or when there's some sort of rebasing event, they are probably doing some calculation, working out kind of how much ohm has been sort of accrued to this bond, and adjusting how many blocks are left, and then they will kind of save that as this last block. That calculation happened at this last block. So when they need to go and do this calculation again, it's not that they have to go back historically and do it over every period in time.
So that was the first variable in terms.
Yes, control variable is there. Yeah.
It's interesting that there's like a whole struct for messing with it. But we'll probably understand that more as we see the code.
Yeah, so there's quite a bit of data stored in these structs. I hear chat is telling us we lost audio for a bit, but we're okay now. All right, chat, yeah, you let us know if we need to adjust that. All right, let's get back to these user functions. Deposit. Do you want to start working through this one, Will?
Sure, just give me 1 second to fix something. All right, let's take a look. So again, shout out again just to how clean their commenting is. Like, they're bundling their functions together very nicely. They're using that spec. Good job, guys. Okay, so what do we have here? A uint for the, let's just start from the arguments here. We've got a uint for the amount being deposited. A uint for the max price, guessing from the variables before, that's going to be the maximum return, I'm assuming, and the address of the depositor. which I guess gives you the ability to deposit from one address on the behalf of another one, because otherwise you'd have message.sender. So that's external, and it's going to return a UINT. I'm assuming the UINT is going to be some kind of identifier, like an ID number for the bond or something like that. You can't deposit on the behalf of the 0 address. It calls an internal function called decay debt. Maybe before we go down to decay debt, let's see what we can still figure out over here. Require total debt is less than or equal to terms max debt. So terms, again, were kind of like the global variables, right? So
Yes.
it looks like there's a ceiling here, like, in DAI or MakerDAO or something like that, which stops deposits at a certain amount. You only let in a certain amount each epoch. I feel like we saw something like that last week when you were going through the Ohm stuff also, that there is kind of like a maximum amount of deposits each epoch. So that's where that's enforced. UINT price in USD equals bond price in USD. So that also, I'm assuming, is a public view function. It looks like they're internal functions. They're actually, I don't know that. I wonder if decay debt is internal or not. But okay, it's either a public view or it's a what's it called, or an internal. I guess we'll see. So bond price in USD, then UINT native price is bond price. So it looks to me, native price, I'm guessing, means ETH. That would be my guess, as more pricing both in USD and in ETH.
It might be in the do you remember that
In Ohm?
there? No, I think it's in DAI for this one, because if we go back up here,
Not the USD one?
Shit. Let's go back down. Do you remember that?
You've got the US. Yeah, go for
I
it.
think was it the bond depository? Oh no, it was the actual bonds, right? They had actual bonds, and they had a copy of each actual bond in their own currencies, right?
That is possible. I don't remember.
I think that's how they did it. So they have the WETH bond depository here. So I think it's in
Denominated in the terms of whatever currency is being paid for.
Yeah, I think it's that. And in this case, I assume we should just stick with DAI, even though there are other currencies it accepts.
Right.
But
It's
let's go
interesting
check
then
it
that
out.
you also need price in USD. But yeah, we'll see.
Well, DAI isn't exactly 1-to-1 USD, right? So it's actually.
I don't know
guess
if their
good.
USD is USD either, though. You know what I mean? Like, where are they getting USD price from? Chainlink?
Should we dive in? That I would hope it's
Go for it.
Chainlink.
Go for it. Oh, we're gonna have to start bouncing around the contracts, aren't we?
Oh my.
Bond price, iBond calculator, markdown, principal divided by 100.
So it's really the bond price, which is here. It does not look like they're making any sort of calls to Chainlink.
Or anyone for that matter.
Yeah.
Bond price in USD takes bond price.
To DAI value. Okay, so.
Oh wait, no, it is calling the bond calculator, isn't it? So the question would be then what the bond calculator is calling.
Let's just quickly take a look at that bond calculator then. So
yeah.
Where is that?
Well, I mean, they probably all do.
Oh. You see that anywhere?
I'm looking for it.
Up here, maybe.
Standard bonding calculator.
Oh, there we go. I don't.
Has a Babylonian square root library.
Yeah. So I think this is going to do a lot of bond pricing stuff. But I don't think it's going to be getting like price oracles. Yeah. But it looks like that when they say USD, they mean DAI. This is converts bond price to DAI value.
Yeah, I'm still looking at the calculator a bit. It does call Uniswap.
Oh, does it?
I'm assuming that it's using Uniswap as a price oracle.
Where do you see the calculator? Oh, there it is. Is it this one?
Yeah, standard bonding calculator. It's at the bottom.
Right.
If you look there at line 275, you'll start seeing a bunch of Uniswap calls.
Interesting. It doesn't look like they're just getting the decimals here, and then they get reserves. Okay, get reserves. This would give you pricing. And this, I don't think this would be the safest way to get pricing of assets, is just to look up the sort of the spot price on Uniswap, because obviously that can be manipulated.
What's interesting to me also is that it does seem to be taking arbitrary pairs. Now, I'm assuming Ohm has like approved and unapproved currencies. Like manipulating the price of DAI on Uniswap, I would assume is exceptionally difficult just because the pools are so deep. Then again, maybe you could find DAI against some kind of, I don't know. Oh, maybe it's, I wonder which DAI pool they're looking at even. Does it have to be DAI Ohm then? Maybe that's the feedback loop, actually. If they're pricing off of DAI Ohm, and Ohm owns most of the liquidity in the DAI Ohm pool, it then becomes very difficult to manipulate the pool because of how much Ohm controls the pool.
Unless you can just overpower them by flash
loaning.
Yeah. But I think in this case, we're dealing with like very liquid assets like DAI. I think there's USDC there. Frax is probably the least liquid of them, but I think it's also pretty liquid. But anyway, we're getting a little bit off track. Should we get back up to that deposit function?
Sounds good.
All right.
Yeah. So, however they are finding it, they're getting both the price in USD, which is again likely using DAI as a proxy for USD. It's kind of interesting. I wonder if it's DAI or USDC even. USDC probably has a slightly tighter range. And they also price in native, which we think right now means how much. Sorry, not how much, the currency it's being used to purchase the bond. So where does that put us up to? Give me 1 second. There we are. Okay. So now we're the require on line 826. Require max price is greater than equal to native price. Slippage limit more than max price. Okay, that's a slippage thing. What's that native price? Native price. Oh, native price is what we just found. The max price. Oh, okay. So max price is one of the arguments for the function. So max price has to be the maximum amount that the person who's buying the bond is willing to pay for it. And we want to make sure that that is greater than or equal to the native price. Because if slippage pushes up the native price more than the max price, it will fail on this line. There, yeah. I got. Okay, that's it.
So
that's
basically,
just a basic check.
Yeah, this is like the Uniswap kind of check where you can specify when you're doing a Uniswap transaction, you can specify the I guess the least or the least favorable term you'd like to do that swap at, so that if there are sort of sandwich bots or anyone manipulating the price, or things are just trading a bit volatilely while you're doing your transaction and your transaction is waiting to go through, then you can at least sort of specify a range at which you're comfortable to do the swap, and then beyond that range you're not comfortable doing that swap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's exactly what's happening here, it looks like.
Yeah.
Let's continue.
Okay. So then we have the value and the payout. I treasury value of principal amount and payout to bonder is computed. I'm assuming that's the anticipated payout, like as in what the, like, you know, I deposit and this is kind of as of this moment what I expect to be getting back or something like that. That would be my guess. It's interesting. Actually, what would be the difference between that and value? Not sure. But let's. I guess we'll just like have to keep that in our pocket for a second. There's one thing called value. There's another one called payout. The payout has to be over a certain amount, and that first require has to be at least 0.01 ohm. They call that underflow protection. I'm assuming that there are more decimals there. It'd be difficult to believe that there's a token that really only has 2 decimal places. But that's what they call already, I guess. Oh, no, it has to be even. You can figure that out from the require, because the require has significantly more than 2 zeros in it.
Yeah.
3, 6, what is that, 7, 8.
I
think that's 10 to the 8th. Yeah, I counted the one.
Yeah. Okay.
Which would be 10 to the 7th, you're right. Okay. Max payout bond too large. Size protection because there is no slippage. Not sure what that means. But
So-
again, we did see that max. Yeah, go for it.
So I think this is because they're just working off a spot calculation, like an exchange rate, and then they're converting that to a payout. So they probably have a max limit on that, so that they can't just, you can't come in here and kind of demand this huge payout, because there's no, it's not really taking into account some sort of slippage or proper liquidity pool here.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a spot conversion rate. So I think this is kind of for safety.
Safety, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Profits are calculated. So we have the fee. I'm assuming that's like a system fee will go to ohm or something like that. So this is just for people unfamiliar with the pattern. Solidity has no decimals in it. So you can't just multiply by 0.05 if you're taking a 5% fee. So over here, what they're doing, you'll see, is they multiply by the whole fee. Like, let's say that would be a 5% fee. So they'd multiply, in this case, by 500, because right afterwards they divide by 10,000. And then the dividing by 10,000 just basically does a floor division on it and truncates everything that would be past the decimal point. Okay. Profit would be value sub payout sub fee. So the value over there is again, okay. Okie dokie. Wait a second. Now we're starting to get somewhere, I think. The profit subtracts payout from the value and the fee. So it looks like value is kind of like the gross, and then payout is the net. Like value is just like the raw amount of how much, like, you know, how much value this bond creates. Then the payout is how much of that, I'd assume at least, the maybe, I'm not sure if it's the user even, but let's assume for a second it's the user. If that's the case, though, then the profit, I don't know who the profit's going to, because we're subtracting payout and fee from value in order to get profit. So it essentially looks like there's 3 different payouts here. There's the one being called payout, there's the one being called fee, and there's the one being called profit.
Yes, you are correct.
3-way split. Oh, which, I mean, if I'd have to guess just where else we see kind of like a trinity here, it would be the protocol, the users, and the depositor. So I don't know who matches up with what yet, other than fee likely goes to the system. All right, principal is transferred in, approved, deposited. Okay. ERC20 safe transfer from, you can see they're using the safe ERC20 safe transfer here, which is also why it's not wrapped in a require, doesn't return bool. From message.sender to address.this for amount. ERC20 principal, approve, address treasury amount. It's interesting that they approve on a case-by-case basis here. I'm assuming that's a security thing, because I could have anticipated that this contract would just set max UNT 256 approval to other contracts in the system. but I'm assuming this way they keep themselves a little bit safer just in case there is a hack.
Would
Yeah,
it be
user
more-
pays for it though.
It would be more gas efficient to just approve once between your contracts on like a setup thing when you're setting those contract addresses,
Right.
or setting up the proxies. But yeah, exactly. So that's interesting that they're doing this kind of each bond deposit.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I like it from a security standpoint. It happens to me.
Mm.
But yeah, it means the user pays more every time they deposit. treasury.deposit. Okay, and that's where we saw in the diagram that there's the arrow going from the depot to the treasury. This is where that happens.
Yeah.
All right. If
That
fee
is-
is not 0. Yeah.
That is this error. Boom.
Yep.
Right. Back to this. There we go.
There we go. So if the fee is not 0, so then it transfers to the DAO. So now we
Yes.
know who gets fee. The DAO gets fee.
Hmm.
Great. Though in the meantime, actually, what did we send? Okay, so the treasury's getting the profit. The profit was the
Well, I think
minus payout minus fee, right?
I think they're getting the amount, so the full amount, because or sorry, no.
Oh, you're calling a deposit function on them. Wait a second. No, first you transfer it in there, then you approve the treasury, then you call deposit on the treasury, which I'm assuming has a transfer from in it, and the
Yes.
treasury is pulling the profit. Oh, the principal and the profit. What was principal again? Principal can't be the whole amount because we're taking fee off. I'm assuming principal is something like the whole amount minus fee.
Principal is the amount of like the underlying of like DAI, let's say, that you deposit.
But not the whole amount because some of it's going to the DAO.
Well, the term
So I'm
principal
assuming-
means that like the full.
Oh, I know.
amount.
Yeah. I'm not that big of a pleb. I was just wondering as a variable what it was. I'm assuming it's something like the total principal that's been deposited minus the fee because the fee's going to the DAO.
But if you notice, the fee is being paid in ohm. Here, it's the principal token.
Good point. So you're saying even the fee. Okay, yeah. So you're saying that the entire principal is being transferred there. It's going to be interesting to see what deposits arguments are. The deposit in treasury.
Because
You're right. You've got the amount, the principal, and the profit here. I guess it needs those numbers so that it can split it up properly. But I see what you're saying. You're right. Everything is going to the treasury first, and then it's using the ohm contract and can transfer the amount of the fee in ohm to the DAO.
Yeah.
So the DAO is
So-
getting paid their fees in ohm.
So probably you could start to see ohm as a bit of like a claim over this treasury or the underlying liquidity, and then the DAO has that you give them a cut of those claims, and then the user gets their claims, right? And their claims, I think, are what grow in value, or they get more ohm over time, and so after a period of time, they have a claim over a larger amount of liquidity or assets locked in the treasury. Cool.
That makes sense. Total debt is increased only after the transfers happen. Okay. Depositor info is stored. Bond info.
So here's where we
They
get
only
our
make
data
the struct
structures.
debt. Interesting. So that is the way they do it is bond. Payout is bond info depositor payout dot add payout.
So
Because maybe they have
they're accumulating.
previous.
Yes. So
Yeah.
they could have previous deposits, and we're just adding on to their previous deposits for the depositor.
Vesting, block number, and price paid. So the vesting and the price paid also will be set as of now. Like if they made a deposit like, a month ago. So now when they make a new deposit, the price paid will just be updated, I'm assuming, to the most recent one, unless that whole calculation price in USD or whatnot also knew how to like accumulate and average out or something like that.
It doesn't look like they're doing that, though. It looks like it's just getting the update.
Yeah. I mean, well, that there was that
Yeah.
function for it, so I just don't remember what. Like, I wasn't paying that much attention to the function, but yeah. Either
There's a
way,
few sort of like helper functions going on here, like this decay debt. There's I see adjust at the bottom here.
Oh, because every time there's a deposit, it changes the control variable, it looks like. Interesting. Okay. All right. And then we've got a couple of events. Bond created, which is the amount, the payout, the vesting block, as in when it's going to open up, and the price in USD. So, yeah, that also makes it sound like price in USD is just for this deposit.
This I think is when it ends. So this is the current block. Yeah. And then the end when it ends vesting. So that's your expire or your maturity of the bond, I think.
Yeah, there we go. You got the official terminology there.
Hey.
I was just like, when it ends. Like, yeah. Bond price changed, I'm assuming, is because we're changing the control variables. And if that is the case, it's interesting that they call it here. No, never mind. I thought it was because we were changing the control variables, but it only happens in 2 lines, so I doubt that's what it is. Bond price changed, bond price in USD, bond price debt ratio. I don't have a good grasp on what that is. Bond price in USD, bond price debt
So
ratio.
those were, those were called up here. There was a bond price in USD, and then what other function?
So there was bond price in USD, there was bond price, which was the next line, and the debt ratio. I guess bond created are kind of like the details of that, like the technical details of the bond, and then bond price change is more like the price. But then why is debt ratio there? I'm not sure.
Debt ratio must be for the whole protocol, I think, for OHM.
Yeah, me too.
Which is, I guess, the ratio probably between like debt outstanding of all these OHM tokens and underlying liquidity or treasury amounts that it owns. But it's interesting that they call it here again. So they're recalculating all of these things.
Oh, yeah, that makes a lot more sense to me, because if you say that after each bond, is that before or after adjust? It's before adjust.
It's before adjust, but I think adjust is for global things. But so this is,
it already knows it here, so to speak.
Yeah, these values should change, I guess, based on this deposit and what the user is doing here. There's like some value exchanging hands here. There's taking,
or maybe even the total debt. It could even be just because the total debt goes up.
Total debt is increasing.
So the figures already change, and that's why it's called bond price change. Now I get it. Yeah, okay, that makes a lot more sense.
It's starting to click. Beautiful.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of times, especially when you're dealing with an entire suite, there's like different levels of critical mass. Like you just kind of walk in the darkness until like the pieces start clicking, and then they just click more and more and more over time. Like right now, we're just working on this contract. Even there's a whole suite, which I think probably we're not going to get to because we're already like 40 minutes in, and this is the second week that we're on it. I guess the big lesson to learn here is we cannot analyze an entire contract suite in 2 hours. But still, like I would say, like, yeah, it is nice to see this one start to fall into place.
Yeah. In chat, you must let us know if you really want us to keep unpacking OHM. Tell us, otherwise we're probably going to move on from OHM to something a bit different and interesting in the next episodes. All right.
Let's see if we can speed run. Oh, and then it returns payout. That's what it was. It wasn't some ID number unless the payout was also used as an ID.
No, I think this would be some sort of value amount. I don't think it's an ID.
Right. I mean, it could be they assumed that the values will always be different because it's just like improbable they'll be the exact same amount or something. That seems unlikely to me. Also.
Yeah, that seems very unlikely.
It seemed like a good vector for attack if it would be the case. Yeah. All right, let's see if we can speed run redeem.
All right, redeem is shorter.
Oh, so okay, might even need to not even speed run then, eh? So we've got address, the person who's supposed to receive the payout, and bool, stake. I guess there's different kinds of bonds, right? There were like the liquidity provisioning bonds, and then there were just straight bonds. I wonder if the stake bool has something to do with that. Bond memory info, bond recipient. Okay, so this is, I've been wanting to gas profile things like this. I'm assuming what they're doing on 677 is actually a gas game. They're loading a struct into memory. I'm assuming because they need to query it a lot. And that's going to be info anytime we see like an info dot something here. You went percent vested for recipient, blocked since last interaction, divided by vesting term remaining. Okay, so that is, I'm assuming since someone's able to. Oh, okay. Wait a second. Blocked since last interaction, divided by vesting term remaining. So I'm assuming we're just going to be checking if this is over 1 or not. If it's less than 1, so it's going to be 0 because of the solidity. There are no decimals.
Are you looking at this comment here?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Like, let's say that it's been 1 block since the last interaction, and there's 5 blocks left of vesting. So this will be 0, because 1 divided by 5 in solidity is 0.
No, well, I think they're probably going to save it in a more meaningful, like it won't just round down to 0, but it's giving you the proportion of your bond period that has expired.
Oh, this is probably where the fixed math is coming in. Yeah,
percent
probably.
vested. There we go. So yeah, there we go. It's what percentage has vested so far.
Right. I was just trying to figure out because I was just stuck in Solidity land and forgot that they had a bunch of fixed point math libraries here. Like, shouldn't it either it should be above 0 or 0. And I was trying to figure out like why you would use the unit for that. But you're right. I'm sure they're using fixed point library for that. Right, which we can even see from the next line. Like if percent vest is greater than 10,000. What's that?
My doc just jumped up here, so I'm gonna try and kill it real quick. Bye bye.
All right, cool.
There we go.
Bam. Okay, if percent vested is greater than or equal to 10,000, so that's full vesting. So the 100% is 10,000. Then we see delete bond info recipient. So then it zeroes out that struct. Emit bond redeemed recipient info payout 0. And return stake or send recipient stake info dot payout. Okay, so that it looks like that stake or send is going to be the big.
There we go.
Oh,
so it's
okay.
A boolean.
So redeem, yeah, that redeem boolean. The stake boolean is basically if they're redeeming everything and like walking home with something in their pocket, or they're staking whatever they're redeeming. There's a way to just kind of auto stake it in this function, it looks like, in that stake or send function. Okay, cool. Else, if unfinished. So the else here is if they've not fully vested. So then payout info, payout more percent vested, div 10,000. Okay, fine.
So this, okay, so there we go. That we get, I mean, it's probably not great to hard code your scale and just a value here. You should probably refactor this to a scale global variable, but percentage vested is probably a figure over 10,000, and that represents a percentage. So this would be a number less than 10,000.
Yeah, it's a bit weird to me though, because then if it's over 10,000, it should have been in the if, not the else. Like by definition, I would have thought this needed to be. Oh no! Payout times fully vest. Payout times vesting divided by 10,000. This is going to take a bite out of the payout.
Exactly. So
because percent vested, we know is less than 10,000.
Yeah. So we know we're not fully vested at this point. If we were fully vested, our thing would be 100% or greater, and then we would get this. We would get all these options to stake or send. But here we're not fully vested at this point. We haven't reached maturity on our bond, and so we're calculating sort of a fractional payout here. I see, and we're
cool. So what do we have here? Bond info. Payout is the payout sub payout. Oh, as in what you thought the payout would be minus what's actually being paid out. Oh, as in it doesn't actually take a bite out. It sounds like the rest of the payout, as in you can't withdraw everything, but the rest remains deposited. I'm guessing from payout. I could be wrong though.
Yeah.
Because you're taking what you thought you would get minus what you're actually getting, which means that there should be a difference that's still stored in payout.
Exactly. So
it doesn't zero it out.
Well, I mean, these could be the same figures, right? I think you could be taking out your full amount. Oh no, you couldn't be taking out the full amount.
Nah, payout has to be less. Yeah, the local payout has to be different than the payout that's stored in the struct. So there should
yeah,
be some difference there.
There will be something left over because we're not fully vested, so we're not able to take out the full 100% of the payout. So there'll be something left over here.
Right. And then vesting, info vesting dot sub, block number sub, info last block, info dot vesting dot sub, block number dot sub. Info.last block was what used to be the last block it was interacted with.
Yeah.
So
well,
block
it's always
number minus the last block that was interacted with. And you take that number and you take it off of vesting.
So this will be the amount of blocks since the last
between
block
the last
till
interaction of this. And then you're taking that off of the vesting period, which is also interesting to me. Like you shave off the vesting a bit by doing this. Last block, block.number, and price paid stays the same. Okay, cool. Emit bond redeemed and return stake or send. All right.
Interesting to look at the difference between stake or send here and here. Same recipient, of course, same stake. But here we're doing the full amount from that info payout. And here we're just doing the local payout, which is the fractional amount.
Yep. Can we hop to the stake or send?
Sure.
I'd like to see what's going on there.
Stake or send.
All right. So if it's not being staked, the user doesn't want to stake back. So then you just transfer OHM to the recipient, as in they're pulling OHM out. Which again, that was something we were talking about last week. That it's interesting. Like you pay in with whatever you pay in, but what you redeem is always going to be the is going to be the OHM. You're always going to get paid out in OHM. So else if it is getting if they are staking whatever it is they're redeeming here. So if user helper. Use of staking warm up is 0. So I guess there's an amount of time it usually takes for things to get staked. But if that's 0, so then ERC20 OHM approve the staking helper amount. staking helper dot stake amount recipient. So it uses this other contract, the staking helper, to stake the amount for the recipient. But that's only if there's no warm up. Else, if there is a warm up, so then again you approve. And you call the staking contract as opposed to the staking helper. Okay, interesting. And that use helper thing must just be able to tell us if it has that, if it has like the 0 warm up time. I don't remember warm up time for staking. Do you remember what that's about? The warm up time for staking?
No idea. I don't think I've heard that before at all.
Maybe it only goes in by the next epoch.
Use helper. Okay. So it's just a Boolean, a public, like a global Boolean.
Oh, okay. That makes even more sense to me. It happens to be. Basically, there's some global variable about whether you can just dump things straight into the staking pool or not.
All right, here, and then there we go. Set staking.
Yeah, so like in one, you can just lightning stake. You don't have any kind of period in the middle. Otherwise, this other contract, I'm assuming, will only let you stake in a new epoch or something like that. I don't know exactly how that's going to work because famously blockchains are horrible at automating things. So like when the new epoch comes, I don't know exactly how it's going to auto stake all your stuff. But it's got to be something like that, though. I mean, it's got to be. It doesn't got to be, but I sure hope it is, because then otherwise I look like I'm an idiot. But you know,
it's got to be. All right. Well, that's stake or send. Want to jump back? Where were we? I guess we were at the end of
a decent overview. We could take a quick look at the view functions, I suppose. But that is a decent overview of what's going on here.
What would be interesting maybe to just jump into is that connection to the treasury here, this deposit, or I mean, there's a lot of other interesting stuff going on here as well. But you want to
see deposit on the treasury?
Yeah, why not? Treasury.
Let's see if we can do that in 5 minutes.
There's the staking warm up, hey? Interesting.
And the staking helper, but I'd say treasury makes more sense in terms of something we might be able to conceivably dive into in 5 minutes.
All right, again with the safe math. There, treasury.
I would say I wouldn't even warm up just because we're low on time. I just find the deposit function and see if we can figure it out from there.
All right. Oh wow!
Wow, that is a lot of mappings, man. I was just writing a contract and I had like 4 or 5, and I was like, "Whoa, this is so many mappings!" But I think this is going to readjust my perspective.
This thing must be huge size-wise.
That's a lot of mappings, man.
The bytecode of this must be
Wow, and
massive.
all those arrays, so many arrays. Whoa, dynamically sized arrays even. Dude, yeah, okay, that's intense.
That is
Totally
wild.
intense.
Right,
Deposit.
there's
Okay.
deposit.
So we already kind of know what the arguments are here. The amount being deposited, the address they're being deposited on the behalf of, and the amount of profit, which was the full amount minus fees minus payout. That's supposed to be happening here. So we require is reserved token. Oh, sorry, the address isn't the one it's being deposited on the behalf of. It's the token. It's the address of the token. Okay, fine. Is reserved token, or is liquidity token not accepted? Okay, so we've got two arrays of approved tokens and approved LP tokens, and otherwise it's just going to reject over here. All right, IERC20 token, safe transfer from message sender, address this amount, which is interesting. It accepts deposits not only from the depot. Theoretically, you should be able to hit this directly, which is
That is
surprising
true
to me.
But
There's
I
no
guess
modifier on this.
you'd be just giving away kind of money, right? Because you're not. It wouldn't send you back, or would it?
You don't
I
have
know.
the structs from the depot?
Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
you
look
won't
at-
be able to redeem anything,
I mean, here it mints you ohm. It sends you back your ohm.
but you won't have a bond.
Yeah.
So you're getting but you don't have a bond.
And the bond
That's
is.
real sus to me.
Also, you could probably specify weird amounts here.
Right, that's kind of what I was thinking too.
Hmm.
But you don't have any access to redeeming from here. Yeah, that's something I'd like to think about, though. That's like a funny thing to chew over. I'll admit, it's kind of sus to me that they don't check where this is coming from.
Chat, what do you think? Do you think we just found an exploit in OlympusDAO on stream?
The real alpha.
I'll leave that as an open
None of
question.
this is legal or financial advice.
Yep.
Like, they have to have thought about this. This is such a basic, but at the same time, like, if I was if I was putting on my Samsung cap, like, I don't know, I'd want to play around with this. I'd want to play around with this. I definitely would not say it's an exploit yet, because as of right now, we don't see any way to get value out. You could mint ohm without making a bond, but that in and of itself doesn't seem to be terrifically destructive.
No.
It's only accepted if it wasn't only accepted tokens. You could create your own token, create a gazillion of it, make up a profit amount, get a ton of ohm for it. But since it's only approved currencies anyway, you're actually going to have to deposit real money into it.
Yeah, so you're losing money, and in exchange you're getting ohm. Yeah.
But why can't you just deposit a token and make up a massive amount of amount? Oh no, because the safe transfer from is amount. You actually have to transfer it in.
Yeah. What about this profit though? Value.
Send value sub profit. So yeah, you would be able to get a good rate on it though, because what you could do is you could just put the profit at 0, and then mint ohm without having to pay the treasury. No.
I'm not sure exactly.
As in, you could mint ohm with less of a tax than regular, I think.
So the send is value sub profit, yeah. So you can increase the value by setting the send
Profit
by
to 0.
setting profit to 0. Is there any check on this profit figure? I don't
I
think
don't
so.
see one. Yeah, I don't see one. It's taking it as gospel. So you let's say you're putting in 1,000 DAI, as opposed to having to pay the DAO and whatnot, you'd be able to mint ohm without having to send anything else to anybody else. But yeah.
All right. Well, so that gives you potentially a larger amount of ohm than if you were just depositing. But we got to play around with that a bit more.
Right, but no future proceeds either, because you don't have access to the bond.
Unless you could do something with this ohm and you could now go stake it.
Yeah, yeah. Like, what if you come to ohm with ohm? All right, interesting. We were going to try to end a little bit earlier, this week, just because of some technical details on our end, though. So, what do you say? I think we should start ramping it up.
All right, yeah, I think this is a good spot to wrap it up.
Should we talk about next week, Rory?
Yeah, we can speak about next week.
All right, fine. So next week it does look like we're going to be doing float.capital on the stream. We may have one of their devs in even to sit here and watch us kind of ludicrously look at their code and have no idea what's going on, unless we do, of course. And so yeah, awesome, and great. Any questions? You can always at Lenham Labs on Twitter. If you have any protocols that you'd like us to fumble around in, then we're totally open to your suggestions. And this will be all for now. Looking forward to seeing you all next week.
Woohoo! Thanks, guys.